the podcast. Grateful to be here with my friend and filmmaker, Chris Farrell. Chris is a filmmaker, creative director, and owner of Echo Media Group, building stories and brands and visuals for a living, and debating camera gear and story structure and movie logic, all for fun on the side. He believes that creativity should be less like homework, more like play, serves as an elder at Element Church, competes in marathons, triathlons, super fit, and travels the world with his family. He's also the filmmaker that we reached out to when we got the green light to record Sehnsucht Symphony in Brno. So we're going to get into that story. Chris, thanks for making some time in the midst of a really busy pre-launch season. So this is cool.
Yeah, we're days away. Zach, I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me. This is going to be a great conversation. I can't wait to chat about all this.
We are days away, like literally days away from the digital global release of Sehnsucht Symphony. So right now, literally probably, I mean, the 92 some people who played the piece in Brno, there were 25 of us that were there in Brno, and then a handful of people who screened the film. That's it. The rest of the world has not heard this piece of music. So it's really exciting to release it digitally. We can't wait for the world to hear the music. What many people don't know is that there's also a backstory to how this unfolded, why we made a symphony, why make music, why make, what is that story worth telling?
Yeah.
And that's part of why I was so excited to have this conversation. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's super unusual, right? I mean, when you tell someone that there's a new symphony, instantly there are questions. What? A new symphony? I thought that was just Bach and Beethoven. I didn't realize that new ones were made. And so it's a highly unusual thing in today's day and age. And so it's a great story. There's got to be a story there, and there are instantly questions.
Yeah.
So it was great. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't wait to have you come and do this conversation. Because we're just about to release it, and it's fun. People are going to see something that a lot of people don't even know what they're going to experience, because they know we're releasing the music,
right,
but they don't know about the film side of this.
Yep.
But I'm excited because when I first reached out to you, your intuition said that there's more of a story here than we even knew. Right. So we'll get into that. But before we get into it, I want to go back to you as a filmmaker. Because it always interests me when somebody finds their lane and they go, hey, I was made to tell stories. I was made to do this medium of art. And there was something behind the scenes in their story that caught fire in their soul to say, I want to do that. Take me back to whoever it was, a film, a producer, a director that showed you something that set your imagination ablaze.
This is the story I always tell, because this is the moment I knew that I wanted to make movies for people and make people feel things. 10-year-old Chris, I was in 5th grade, a little movie called Jurassic Park just came out, 1993.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember begging my parents to let me go see Jurassic Park. And, they had a little bit of hesitation. I'm 10 years old. It's supposed to be a super violent movie. I'm not entirely sure Chris is ready for this. And so I believe we were on some sort of a family vacation, and my mom took my sister to go shopping. So it's just me and my dad hanging out around this, one of our relatives' house. And I was like, Dad, let's go see Jurassic Park. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, oh, it's just me and you, Dad. Come on, let's do that. And he's like, all right, fine, let's do it. So he took me to go see Jurassic Park. And I am not kidding you. That movie's probably 2.5 hours long.
Sure.
I spent the entire time on the edge of my seat, my knuckles white, the seat in front of me, just watching this thing, just anticipating every moment, breathless. Like, I loved every second. It changed me. Dinosaurs were real.
Yeah.
And I walked away from that knowing that I wanted to make people feel the same way that I did. And like, oh man, that is a powerful thing. Like, to being able to just do that, tell this story and make someone feel that way. I was like, I want to do this. I want to figure out how they made dinosaurs real. I want to figure out how pacing works. I want to figure out how storytelling works. And that was the thing that formed me and changed me. Was 10 years old, Jurassic Park. It just completely, gave me that path. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. That's 100%. So cool. Yeah. That movie first of all, just there are moments in that movie that anybody who remembers being about that age, seeing Jurassic Park come out. We even watched it with our kids and had some of those exact same experiences literally in the living room. So it's such a well-made movie. Did you grow up in a creative house, like pre 10 years old? Were there creative things happening in your home? Were you making stuff before that?
It's so interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say. My mom was a teacher. She quit teaching when she had us, my sister and I. So she wanted to be a full-time mom. She went back to teaching after we got into like high school-ish era. My dad was a pastor. And so, I wouldn't necessarily say that there was like paint brushes or like, writing books or any of that kind of thing, but they were very creative. My dad had to tell a story pretty much every single Sunday. Pastors have to be creative. They've got to keep the gospel fresh. And so, I remember that being a big part of growing up, storytelling. But of course, my mom really, I think, instilled in me like a love of learning, or at least a love of curiosity, which I think helps me in my filmmaking and in documentary and all that, is just asking questions, constantly being curious, wondering what's behind the corner. There's always something else there. And so, that love of learning, that curiosity was definitely instilled into me. And I think curiosity is inherently creative, right?
Yeah.
You've got to do things to get to, what you can't see. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, first of all, if I had $1 billion or multiple billions, it gets like, you used to dream about this, like, what would you do with $1 billion? And now the dreams get so big. It's like, what would I need 2 billion. Like, that's
well, it got more expensive.
Yeah,
I think suddenly
inflation goes up. No, I would give $100 million to V3 immediately, because that's our goal, is to get an endowment for the arts that'll outlive generation and generation. So we would do that.
Yep.
But I think teachers, I would do something to care for teachers and pastors. I remember before I became a pastor reading Martin Luther King Jr.'s, some of his sermons.
Yeah.
And just the way that he told a story, it moved me. And that's how I started to have an imagination for the power of words and preaching, and that got in me.
Yeah. We all have that teacher who
somebody,
instilled into us something, and we were like, I see the world differently now because of that perspective. That's the mark of a great teacher, right? Yeah.
So if you're a teacher, we love you. If you're a pastor, we love you. Like that you are shaping the imagination.
100%.
And at the time, nobody has any view that Chris is going to turn 10 and go see Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
They're irrigating the desert, tilling the ground, prepping you to love learning. You go in, you experience Jurassic Park and say, I want to do that.
Yes.
What makes a good story? Like, and as you became, went on your journey, figured out this craft today in 2026, what would you say makes a good story?
Oh my goodness. What a wonderful question. I think it's something, again, that when you sit down, there's the mystery there of where is this going? But then after you've seen the story, it's the conversation that you have afterwards. I know a movie was great when days afterwards, I'm still thinking about it and wanting to call up my buddies and have a conversation, because it's awoken something up in me that I hadn't necessarily been thinking about before. And so that I think is the mark of a really good story, whether it's a book or even if it's something that's happened to us, or a movie or a television show. You're seeking out people to, talk about that experience that you had with, and have that kind of communal conversation. I think that is the mark of a really great story, is that it lives beyond simply the story itself, but it then also impacts your life, and you begin to shift and change because of it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me, like the story that we're moving through right now as a family. This is so funny, but Melody and I are really together. My wife and I are really married because of Star Trek.
Okay.
So like, our first like real interaction was me realizing that she enjoyed Star Trek. And I thought, she can't possibly like it more than me. And so we had like a Star Trek trivia, like the first interaction.
Yep.
And she ended up knowing more than I did. And I said, you know what? I love this woman.
Yes.
I'm going to marry her. And so we're going through Star Trek Deep Space Nine with my kids right now. And what I love about that is that they're all like these morality plays. After every episode, we can sit down at the dinner table and talk about like, why did Cisco make that choice? Why is that interesting? What can that, instill into our lives? And so I think that's the power of story, is that it just doesn't, it's not just simply there to entertain.
Sure.
If it is great, that's fine. You move on. Yeah. Most movies are that way, but there's 5%, 10% of stories that just attach themselves to you. And then you think about those things and they chemically change you. Yeah. So yeah, that's the mark of a great story, I think.
I love that. The chemical change. Like this, you are different.
Completely.
They
can't be separated anymore. After that moment, Jurassic Park is one of those things for me. Star Trek, The Next Generation is one of those things for me. Those are chemical change moments where I was just like, oh man, I see the world a little differently now. Yeah.
I think that's why I love what we get to do at V3. I'm going back to asking Morgan Irons to paint The Widow of Nain.
Yeah.
Tiny section of scripture. Most people overlook it, have never heard of it. They skip past it. But if you slow down enough to enter that story, that's what's always set my mind ablaze. When I read scripture, I'm like, this was a literal people, a literal funeral procession, but only an artist can present something in a way. When I read it, my imagination can enter that a bit. But man, if you get a storyteller, whether it's through oil painting or film or through a symphony, to bring you into that, you leave changed.
Yeah. And it catches your attention.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what beauty does, right? I mean, that's what you guys talk about this a lot, but it grabs attention.
Yeah.
It's something that says, oh, wait a minute, slow down, look, think. I think right now we don't do that very often, is we consume and move on, consume and move on. And most stuff is made that way. And that's when something is great art, something's a good story, is you have to take a moment and pause and think about it.
What is it?
Yeah. Like, what is that? Why is there a tear in her eye?
Yes.
Why are they holding hands? Why is the hand looking like, what are these little details? Why?
Yeah.
Because they were intentional. There was a moment that the artist put them there for a reason.
Yeah.
And so to contemplate that, to think about that, that's a great story. We can move on, we can keep moving, but there's those moments where we're beckoned to come closer and be like, wait a minute, think about this for a second. Yeah. And that's the mark of truly great art, truly great storytelling is that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you say that really well. Like, it's something is so sticky that yes, we move on. Yes, we go live our lives, but there's a part of that experience or story that is with us days, weeks, months later.
Yes.
This is you. This is why we came to you, because you are a great storyteller. You have this gift and capacity. So I'm grateful to Jurassic Park for setting, and for
Thanks,
Dad.
Steven.
Thanks, Dad, for taking Chris. There's so many layers. I always love that. Like, I could have a 5-hour podcast just tracing the people who make it possible for us. Like, we stand on other people's shoulders.
Oh, yes.
Like the thousands of things that had to be true for you to have the confidence to say, I'm going to try it and tell you for story.
Yes.
That's Riley's going to be like, we can't do a 12-hour podcast. So we'll move. Here's the thing. We came to you because you are a storyteller. And all I knew at the time was we were catching up with what God was doing. We had written Sehnsucht Symphony. We knew that we wanted to make this piece of music that told this story of longing. I had written a book. I didn't feel like I could say in words what I was trying to communicate. And I was trying to wrestle through that, pray through that. And I was like, man, keep going upstream. That gets you to music. There's a whole story there. But I came to you and I said, we got the green light. We're literally going to go across the pond, end up in the Czech Republic. I've never been there. We're going to record a symphony. There's 92 people who are going to make this story come to life through music. And I'm catching you up. Yeah. And I said, all I know is that I don't think we should miss this opportunity. You knew there was more of a story there. I've been dying to know what you were thinking when I came and said, can you help us just at least not miss this?
Yeah, I think the original kind of spec that we talked about was like a 7 to 8 minute long mini documentary, just essentially, promoting or, more of a commercial kind of like, hey, this is a thing. Here's some teasing and get people excited about actually hearing the symphony, seeing the symphony, in person. And so that sounded, amazing. First of all, love to go to the Czech Republic. Why not? I'm all about adventure. I'd love to do that. But for me, I think, the old adage is that a film is really written 3 times. The first time in the script phase, so in a documentary, the prep phase, right? The second time is in the shooting. Okay, it's rewritten while you're shooting, and the third time is in the edit, right? So any film is really written 3 times. And I think in the prep phase, I just didn't have enough information about what was going to be going on. In fact, I don't think any of us did. Yep. And so, we started off with, okay, it's probably going to be this. And then we got to Brno, we got to the Czech Republic, and we started shooting, right? And we started talking to people and capturing the moment. And I got a little bit better of an idea of what you were trying to do and what the people who were a part of this really saw in this project, the grandeur, the significance of it. And so, having, Riley and Christina and Matt, help us on the ground there. We were running around Brno looking for places to shoot. We were, constantly, things just shifted and changed on a daily basis. I remember I had a meeting with the production team one day and just said, hey, listen, things are not going to go the way that we think they're going to go, but that's okay. We always are going to roll with the punches. What did Mike Tyson say? Everybody, wants to fight until they get punched in the mouth, right? And so that's the same thing here. Filmmaking is kind of a full contact sport. And so while we were on the ground in Brno, things shifted and changed. We weren't able to, move the equipment around like we thought we would be able to. We couldn't drive a car in the city. It was kind of crazy. We just couldn't expect those things. And so it shifted and changed there on the ground. And then in the edit, I realized, okay, we actually have about 25 to 27 minutes worth of really great footage here. So I'm just going to send this edit to V3 and let you guys take a look at it and tell me, no, we're going to distill this down yet and do 7 really great minutes, really heavy, thick minutes, or we'll just keep this, at 27. And then eventually it turned into, well, why don't we add some more to it? And so that's the way it really, I think, necessitated itself. We just didn't know what we had until we had it in our hands. And then we shifted and changed and rolled with the punches, and it came out, what we have now, which is about a 32-minute long documentary on the process of making Sehnsucht Symphony. So yeah.
And I'm literally, I was just moved to tears right there. I was sitting here and my eyes got all watery listening to you because I was transported back to Brno.
Yeah.
And again, right? We knew we wanted to write this and that music is powerful and it moves you. And I knew that when I heard the MIDI file of movement 3, when I heard the MIDI file alone, I was like, okay, something has happened here. Constantine's made something beautiful that does punch through and let you hear something other.
Yep.
And I think I knew that. And then I remember walking, you probably remember the square in Brno. There was this little cobblestone square. And I remember walking and it was freezing cold and I was trying to find breakfast for the kids or something. And I became aware of just how rare this is.
Unbelievably rare. Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing? How did we even get here? That there's this incredibly beautiful piece of music that's been written and it took a year for someone to even write the music and they're telling a story. There's a story of that person telling a story. And then we walked into that hall and you have 92 musicians who are warming up and, just getting ready to perform this thing. And I really, in that square was I think I don't yet know. I think I still don't yet know how beautiful this thing is that God really gave birth to.
Yeah.
As a storyteller, where was your moment where that kind of hit you, where you were like, it's not just that things are changing tactically, but that something's happening here, that there's maybe a broader story and something to tell here that isn't just, the tactical part of us bringing this. Where were you sitting, standing? Where were you at where you first got that glimpse of like, oh, whoa, something else is happening through this music?
Wow. Well, I mean, I think the first moment I knew, it's so interesting to me, Zach. You meet a lot of people who get excited about things, who have ideas, who, say stuff. And then you have people who do, right? Who have those ideas and then do them. I think for me, it was more that I was seeing V3 and Zach Elliott in particular being doers. For me, that said, I kind of want to hitch my wagon because there's not many people who are in that category of doers. It was one of those things where there was proof in the pudding, right? We had experienced in other areas, in pastoral sense, and in through, other things that V3 had done. There was just that sense that V3 was doing something different, that was being deliberate. And we really wanted to be a part of that story, my wife and I. And I think when you were describing, we were, I think, at a V3 partner lunch, and you were describing that you guys had just gotten funding for this thing. And you walked up and said, hey, you want to go to Brno and maybe just, film this little silly mini documentary? I was like, yeah. People say that kind of thing all the time. Hey, you want to go we're going to go do that. We're going to go do that. We're going to blah, 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 blah. Great. Okay. You walk away. You don't really think about it. But then I got an email from Cammie. Hey, are you serious about doing this? Yeah, let's go. I think for me, that's the moment I realized it's the follow through. It's that not only would this be great if, it's we're going to do this thing because we know it's important, because we know it will bring about significance and be the Jurassic Park moment for somebody. Yeah. Genuinely think about this. Like, even if it touches a handful of people, but it inspires one person to do something great. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, it's like this incredible cascade effect. And I'm so grateful that you guys are investing in that. And you specifically, Zach, are investing your time, energy, and effort in something that not many people are doing right now. They're just not thinking that way. And so I want to be a part of that. And so for me, that was one of the genesis, right? And then, of course, how can you not love Brno and feel like things are changing and shifting? I don't even know if it was so much the music for me, because I hadn't heard it yet. I hadn't, we were just hearing pieces, and I was so focused on telling the story. But for me, I think the number one, the moment that I knew we had something special, the moment I knew that something incredible was going to happen, was being able to have these conversations with Constantine, with you, and with Josh. And like, oh, we're not simply just writing a piece of music. We're doing something much more significant than that. And that's the thing that people need to understand, is that this isn't entertainment. This is more of, I don't know what you want to call it, like an experience to hopefully bring you closer to the true story, right? That one true story that we're all trying to tell. So I'm grateful for that. That's kind of where I began, is talking to the people. That's what really got me into it. And I'm excited that's what people are going to get to be able to see when we actually show this film for the first time, is that it's not just this beautiful music and this incredible story, but there are people behind it, and they're desperate to kind of tell this incredible story that not many people hear or see. So yeah. I think that might answer your question.
Usually I ask like 6 questions at the same time, and like they're all blended together.
Oh, I know. I had to edit you.
You had to edit that. But I'll tell you what, though, I don't know if it's just like the timing or maybe, I don't know. I've moved to tears. This happened when you interviewed me for the film.
Yeah.
And I don't love to, there's that part of me that is very, very private. But even now talking to you, I'm just like overwhelmed with emotion because of how it's just beautiful to see this story come together and what I know people are going to experience. I remember before we left for Brno, we got invited to my son's classroom just to talk about the artwork that Josh had done.
Yes.
And I got to go in there and take Josh's artwork and tell the story and say, here's what this is about. And I watched the faces of the kids and they were just like, they were Jurassic Park moment. Just like, I want to know this story.
It comes alive.
It comes alive.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited in our moment of like just digital annihilation and all the things that if you personally know me, I'm all tied in knots about, right? Like to get to do something about it and go like, okay, so what if we didn't? What if we made something that took a couple years?
Yes.
It took a few hundred people.
Intentional.
And visual artists and filmmakers and composers. Like, what if we did something like that so that those kids, maybe a 10-year-old could sit in there and go, wow, I can't wait. I'm going to pull this off track. I got to get us back on track.
No, it's okay. Let's get off track. I love getting off track. Let me say one thing real quick before you get back on track is that I feel like you're right. Most things, if you hear people talk about in media today, they talk about content. Right. It's all about content, which means they're consumed, move on. It's, it's like, whatever it is, like toilet paper almost, you know what I mean? Like it's there, it serves a purpose and then you throw it away. You never even think about it again. It goes away. We just got to fill the time. We've got to get the swipes. We've got to get you know what I mean? Like it has to be used so quickly and moved on. That is the other thing that is very unique about this is that it is intentional and it's that long, slow, deep kind of like really intentional. And it's meant to be consumed, quote unquote, seen in that exact same way. Take your time with it, go back, re-listen, dig a little bit deeper, understand the story that it's trying to tell. And that's what I love about this project as well, is that there's those onion layers where on the outside, it's just a beautiful piece of music. Yes, true, 100%, unbelievably incredible piece of music by itself. I love music. I think my most listened to genre of music is soundtracks, right, from film. And so I love that. It's beautiful. But then being able to see it and hear it in the context of the story that you're trying to tell. And then if you're even more interested in that, you can, see the documentary and hear the people's story behind the story. I don't know if you remember, but when I was growing up, my favorite thing to do would be watch Jurassic Park, watch The Lord of the Rings, but then watch the behind the scenes documentary.
100%.
And that's what I feel like we've done with Stronger Spells it's the behind the scenes documentary. It brings that story to life even more once you know the passion and excitement and the work that went into that one little shot. And you're like, oh man, that's why it felt so epic. That's why it felt so different. That's why that piece of music hit me like that, is because Zach and Constantine thought about it for a month and a half. It wasn't an accident. It was there for a reason. Anyway, so yeah.
No, I love that. And I love the long form invitation. It is meant to be, this is a story. Like you're going to get lost in it. I hope that's what happens. And I remember listening to records as a kid, and that's what I won't rest. God willing, we'll be able to press this on vinyl. And I cannot wait for a kid to have an album cover that has all of Josh's art, and to just sit there like I used to do and listen to that record, movement after movement, and just get lost and let your imagination go into that story. I cannot wait for that. Yeah. March 7th, we're going to release the music. So everybody will be able to go to all the digital platforms and you'll be able to listen to the music. That's Sehnsucht Symphony. And we'll say more on Sehnsucht later with Constantine. But what happened is we came to you with this 7 to 8 minute ask, and it turned into Stronger Spells. And so people are going to hear that and they're going to go, wait, you have Sehnsucht Symphony, but what's this Stronger Spells thing? Just set that up for people if they're like, oh, wow. So what is the wine and cheese there with Stronger Spells and Sehnsucht Symphony? what is it? And what am I what am I going to see? What have you curated for us as a filmmaker?
So there's a restaurant here in Tampa called Burns. Have you ever been to Burns Steakhouse?
Yeah.
And so Burns, great, you can sit down, have a wonderful meal, steak, the wine, all that. That is Sehnsucht Symphony. That's the main course, right? But if you really had a great experience there, they offer, I'm not sure if they still do, but for a while, they offer a tour of the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
A tour of their wine cellar.
Yep.
Some people just say, no, thanks. I'm just here for that. I just enjoyed the food and, pay the tip and they leave, right? But if you're really interested in seeing how it was made and the passion that the chef had behind the scenes and what it takes to make a truly great steak or what it looks like to store the wine and hear the story behind all that stuff and get a greater significance for what it takes for you to have that wonderfully amazing meal, that's what Stronger Spells is, right? It's this look behind the scenes to hear the passion, to hear the excitement, to hear the intentionality of what is, that wonderful piece of music, to hear the story about what it took to go from, nothing to actually being something that you can throw your earpods in and listen to on Apple Music or on Spotify or wherever. And so like that's the idea here is that it's that DVD extra. It's that learning behind the scenes of what it took, because I think for most of us, we just don't have that understanding of how special, of how uncommon this really is in today's day and age.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good for us to be reminded that there's a cost, that there's a story, that there's a reason why A and B happened. And that's exactly what Stronger Spells does, is it gives us that viewpoint that perhaps we would not have otherwise had.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you did. So thank you. That's a great picture of what it does. And it does that really well. I think there's a moment in the film where Constantine says, it's crazy rare. Like he literally says that line. And that's from Constantine's view as a composer.
Yep.
He's literally saying, I'm looking around the world and people are not writing original narrative, classical tonal music like this. It's literally not happening.
And I can't remember if he says this I can't remember if I edited him out or not. I've watched hundreds of hours of your interviews and all of them, but he even says like normally in, his field, even if you do write something that's new, it's this small, 10-minute little thing that you've done, and you've got to sandwich them in between two really well-known pieces. Yeah. And so to just do something this long form and completely new without anything else propping it up, that is rare.
It's crazy rare. Yeah. Yeah. And we're doing a second one. I mean, there's a whole second story. There's a follow-up symphony.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much we could talk about. You're going to see Stronger Spells. March 7th, the music will be released. Stronger Spells, only 100 people get to see it in this form.
Yes.
What comes next, yet to be seen. A lot of that depends on funding and opportunities and what doors God opens. But ultimately, other audiences will get to see Stronger Spells.
Yes.
And so the two pair, we ended up telling the behind the scenes story. And then one of the things we wrestled with is, it is crazy rare because to play a piece of music that has 92 instrumentalists, the cost of doing that, we're praying we can do it here in Tampa. We're praying it happens in other venues, but it's a very rare opportunity just to hear it played.
Yes.
So you're going to hear the recording. And we thought, how can we create an experience where people can see what we saw? Because being in the room where it happened was unbelievable to watch another 10-year-old who picked up a violin at 10 and then they became a professional musician and then they're taking that gift and applying it to this storytelling.
Yes.
That was extraordinary. So we wanted people to see that, but we weren't sure that an orchestra performance, a symphony performance would translate to a film medium because it's not intended to. You're intended to see it live, experience it live, hear it live. And so that was one of the challenges we presented to you. We screened the film. We got some feedback.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the bridge that you've helped build to kind of say, no, we want you to have that experience that we had, the behind the scenes look of even the recording of this piece of music. Yes, the best is when we're all going to listen live, but we want people to hear the behind the scenes and then to engage that medium in the way that that medium engages you. It's visual.
Yes.
How did you approach that? Because that was like a Rubik's Cube for us. We were like, I don't know if we can solve that. And you've done a wonderful job to give us something really, really special, I think.
So just real quick, are you talking about Stronger Spells or are we talking about the symphony?
The symphony performance.
Yes.
Once you wrap Stronger Spells,
yes.
Then the question mark was, do they see the music played or do we just let people go listen?
Right. Yeah, I think, one of the things that we really wanted to do for the symphony itself was give people that tug back to the narrative of what we were trying to accomplish, what Zach and V3 is trying to accomplish, that story that they're trying to tell through the music. And so, yeah, being able to give, those visual cues, Josh's art is, incredible. So being able to, I don't know, I almost don't even want to, I got goosebumps editing this thing. I feel like I'm more closely connected with the story when I've got these. I'm a very visual person, and so I love to be able to see those things. Yeah, and I think the feedback we got when we first showed this almost a year ago was, I just want to be reminded every once in a while through the music what the story beat is, and so we've got these wonderful little passages, these little, verses for people to read. And then this incredible artwork that kind of comes to life from Josh's mind and kind of just ushers us through this incredible story. And I'm very excited for people to experience it.
Yeah.
It is one of those things too, where I feel like, for the last year and a half, effectively, we've been making this thing and it'll be so nice just to say, here it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is it. And I think people are really going to really love this.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure what we're doing with it after this. Yeah. But I do feel like that there is, a space where people will really love being able to sit down and experience it over and over again. So anyway, I know I have, even editing it, it's been incredible.
Which that's saying something. There's literally hundreds of hours that you've just taken on. And that is part of the price, the cost to do something, right? The writing it, the making it, the filming it, the storytelling, all of it. So I'm excited. It sold out so fast. I mean, there's only 100 seats in the theater and they were gone. So we will figure out a way to get it to other people. I can't wait for that. Part of the selfish part of me is like, I love experiencing it with people. Like that's always been the way that you do it communally. So there's part of me that's hesitant to release it because I don't know how far you can reduce it down and engage it on your phone by yourself, right? Or if you need other people, I don't know.
I know on the 7th, the thing I'll be watching the most is the audience's reaction. You know what I mean? That is what I'll be doing is looking around at these moments, when Josh calls you, insane or whatever. Like I always love to see the people's response to that. Or, there's a few moments where, it's just, you hope that they hit and that they land. People laugh or they say a thing or, you know what I mean? They whatever, they're crying. That is the thing that you really want. Like I said, I want desperately to put something on the screen where people have a similar experience where they've felt moved emotionally, physically, they've had a response. And that is truly what I, want to be a part of is telling a story that moves people, that they have a response. And so much so that they want to tell others about it. Talk, like I said before, that's the mark of a good story is that I'm hoping people will walk out of this screening saying, you have to see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to see this. You have to hear this. You listen to this now.
Yeah.
And then whenever it's available again, you must see this thing. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. It's literally, we're so close to it coming out. And I think I'm with you. You just want to get in the room and see it come out.
Yes.
So I can't wait. If you're listening to this, pre or post, like if it's go pre-save Sehnsucht Symphony. You can go to Spotify, all the digital platforms. It's going to release not until the 7th of March. And if you're hearing this sometime in the future, go right now and go to a digital platform and you can pull up Sehnsucht Symphony and listen to it. And all of the movements are there. It is a narrative story. It arcs from one point to the other. And that's done in the stories unpacked behind the scenes through the film Stronger Spells.
Yep.
And then the recorded performance with Josh's art is just extraordinary. So
it's going to be incredible.
Chris, thank you. For the person who says, like, you ask me right off the bat, right? One of the questions is, why a symphony?
Why? Yeah.
Why a symphony? When you shut your computer down, what's your why a symphony?
You know, a symphony, like I said before, like I really enjoy soundtracks, right? I feel like a symphony gives that space where you're able to close your eyes and it can transport you to a space and a place unlike any other type of music. Classical music, symphonic music. It's a wonderful canvas that, effectively allows your mind to play a part, right? And allows you, it's just kind of like a good book where, yeah, there's a story there. Yes, the words are written. You're not changing the story. You're not changing the music, but your brain's filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
I love that because you listen to symphonic music and you're like, no matter what it is, you fill in the gaps. What's happening right now? Is it a love story? Oh, I feel this sense of, romance. Is it an action film? Oh, I'm ready to go to battle. Is it, you know what I mean? It creates these spaces for you to put your mind in and begin to think through what is happening. You fill that, the empty space between the words, you fill the empty space between the notes. And what I love about Sehnsucht is it is intentionally that, right? There is a story being told, but it is inviting you to put your own spin on that, to become a part of this incredible story. Like quite literally, imagine that. It's like the scene in Ratatouille, right? When the food critic finally allows himself to like feel again. That a lot of us has just become critics. Everything's so critical. I've got to I don't like that movie because of this or that piece of music. Everybody has to find something wrong with it. But if you just for a moment forget that and allow the thing to become color and light and oh man, what a different world. You know what I mean? Especially if the thing is good, and Sehnsucht is one of those pieces. It is a good piece to sit down and allow yourself to just literally be a part of. Yeah,
I love that. And it does allow you to get lost in it. I think we were thinking about the question now the question originally was, why a symphony?
Yeah.
And the question that I get now is, well, who's it for? Like, who's this for? Who's this music? Who should listen to this music? And I'm reminded of Lewis's quote, like, if I find within myself desires that nothing in this world can satisfy, the only possible explanation. And that was important in my book when I wrote the book, that sense of longing for something that I cannot, something's coming through these things, but these things are not the thing. And I'm longing for something beyond.
Yeah.
And I think what we've started to say is like, this is for people, this music is music for people who have a longing for something that cannot be satisfied by anything in this world.
There's an itch in the soul and it's just like, what? Yeah. There's something out there and we're all searching for it.
Yeah. If that's you, this music, you're going to be moved. You're going to feel what we felt. And
100%.
Can't wait for it. Chris, thank you for stewarding this so well. You're a master storyteller. I hope we get to tell Symphony 2's story. We're being more thoughtful ahead of time.
Yes.
About how we can capture Symphony 2. But this one was unbelievable. And what you've done with Stronger Spells is the perfect tour. I loved your description of that. It's the perfect behind the scene tour. So we can't wait for you to see it. March 7th, the music comes out, and we will find a way to let you see Stronger Spells. So Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Zach. Appreciate it.